let's have a real talk. Men, you need to understand, what you do in the bedroom isn't just about pleasure. It's also about protection of your body, your long-term health, and your future functionality. You see, most men focus so much on performance, they forget their own safety. And there are positions, yes, sexual positions, that can actually cause serious damage if you're not careful. We're not here to shame pleasure. We're here to make sure pleasure doesn't come at the price of pain, injury, or permanent dysfunction. Let's start with one that seems innocent, the woman on top. Now, this position gives control to your partner, but it also takes away your control over depth and movement. The danger: if the angle shifts unexpectedly or if she comes down too fast or off target, it can lead to something called penile fracture. That's not a myth. That's a real medical emergency, and trust me, you do not want to experience that. Second, the doggy style. This is a favorite for many, but it carries risk when not aligned properly. A misaligned thrust, especially during high intensity, can result in tissue tears or nerve damage. It can also create stress on the lower back, especially if you're not using proper hip control. Add to that any pre-existing spine or disc issues, and this becomes more than just risky. It becomes dangerous. Third, the standing position. Sounds athletic, looks impressive, but it demands a lot from your core and back. If you're lifting or holding your partner while trying to maintain rhythm, one bad move can lead to a pulled muscle, a slipped disc, or even herniation. You're not invincible, no matter how fit you think you are. And once your back goes out, it's a long, painful recovery, and often it never feels the same. Fourth is the reverse cowgirl. Visually exciting, maybe, but from a safety standpoint, it's one of the riskiest. Why? Because you've got zero control, and if she leans back too far or moves unpredictably, the angle puts pressure directly on the shaft in a vulnerable direction. Again, penile fracture. And yes, I've treated patients with this exact injury. It's real, it's painful, and it's completely avoidable. And finally, the lotus, or seated position. Seems intimate, right? But this position can compress nerves in your legs and restrict blood flow if done for too long. You might not even realize it until your legs go numb or you feel pain hours later. Men with circulatory issues or sciatic nerve sensitivity need to be especially cautious here. This isn't about fear, it's about wisdom. Your body isn't a machine. It has limits, and pushing those limits without knowledge leads to breakdown. If you're going to engage in intimacy, engage smartly. Know your risks, talk to your partner, and most of all, respect your body. Because real strength isn't just about power, it's about protection. Certain sexual positions can cause serious physical harm to men, especially when control and alignment are compromised. The woman on top and reverse cowgirl positions carry high risk of penile fracture due to lack of control over movement and angle. Doggy style, standing, and positions can cause lower back injuries, nerve damage, or muscular strain if done incorrectly or too aggressively. Prolonged use of positions like lotus can compress nerves and restrict blood flow, especially in men with circulatory or spinal issues. Sexual health is not just about pleasure. It requires awareness, communication, and protection of the male body to avoid long-term damage. Men often assume that if something feels good, it's safe. But in reality, the human body, especially the male anatomy, has limits, structures, and vulnerabilities that must be understood. When it comes to sexual activity, especially certain positions, many forget that the body isn't built for every kind of movement or pressure. Some positions, despite their popularity or visual appeal, can cause physical trauma if done without awareness. The body isn't invincible, and ignoring its limits can lead to painful, even permanent consequences. The most common injuries during sex among men are not random. They are often caused by specific movements and angles where control is lost. For instance, when the partner is on top, a man no longer controls the rhythm or depth. At first glance, it might feel like a break or an active submission, but physiologically, this can be extremely dangerous. If the thrust goes in at the wrong angle and pressure is applied, it can lead to a rupture of the penile tissue, commonly referred to as a penile fracture. It's not just a term, it's a real, traumatic injury that requires immediate medical attention and often surgery. The recovery is long, painful, and can impact confidence and function permanently. What makes these positions dangerous is not just the physical angle, but the illusion of safety they create. People don't expect injury during intimacy. They think of it as a moment of pleasure, not a moment of risk. That's why injuries are more common than people talk about, because no one expects them, and even fewer talk about how to prevent them. Most men would rather deal with pain in silence than admit they were hurt during sex. That silence leads to repeat injuries, emotional stress, and even performance anxiety down the line. This isn't about avoiding all intimacy or labeling certain acts as forbidden. It's about taking responsibility for your body and being informed. Most accidents happen not because a position is inherently wrong, but because people enter it without thinking of their own control, flexibility, or physical condition. A position that may work for one man may be risky for another based on age, weight, health conditions, or even how tired the body is at the moment. Ignoring those factors is not bravery, it's recklessness. Moreover, the problem gets worse when men feel the pressure to perform, like they see in media or adult content. These portrayals often show exaggerated, unrealistic physical feats that, when copied, can lead to injury. The male ego is powerful, and in many cases men will push their bodies beyond safe limits to meet imagined expectations. The result: strains, tears, fractures, and long-term consequences that could have been avoided with one simple mindset shifting awareness over arrogance. It's time men begin viewing sexual activity as not just an act of expression, but a physical interaction that demands care, balance, and knowledge. It's not weakness to protect yourself, it's wisdom. Because your health isn't just for today. It's for your future, your confidence, your relationship, and your ability to fully enjoy life without pain or limitation. The woman on top and reverse cowgirl positions are often praised for allowing a partner more control and visual stimulation. But what many men fail to realize is that these positions are also among the most dangerous when it comes to potential injury. Specifically, penile fracture. This isn't just a cautionary tale or something exaggerated on the internet. This is a real, painful, and often surgical emergency that too many men discover the hard way. When a man is in a passive position, lying on his back with the partner on top, he loses control over how much pressure is being applied and at what angle. During intense or enthusiastic movement, there's a serious risk that the penis can slip out and be forced against the partner's pelvic bone or perineum. That force, especially when the penis is erect and under pressure, can cause the tunica albuginea, the fibrous cover of the corpora cavernosa, to tear. This is what we medically refer to as a penile fracture. You'll know it when it happens. There's often an audible cracking sound, immediate pain, swelling, and a loss of erection. It's not subtle, and it's not something that goes away on its own. Most men who experience this require urgent surgery, and the recovery involves weeks of abstinence, pain, and sometimes long-term complications with erections or curvature. Let's take this further. The reverse cowgirl position increases the risk even more. Why? Because the angle of entry is unnatural for most men unless the couple is perfectly aligned, and alignment in this position is extremely difficult to maintain. The partner is usually facing away and can't see the angle of the shaft. Combine that with rapid movement or sudden changes in direction, and you have a setup for disaster. What's worse is that most injuries in this position happen because the partner unknowingly repositions while still seated, putting unpredictable pressure on a very delicate part of the body. Now, think about the psychology behind this. Men are often told to let go, enjoy the moment, and focus on pleasure. But that doesn't mean ignoring risk. There's no shame in paying attention to your body, your limits, or asking your partner to slow down or adjust. That doesn't make you less of a man. In fact, it shows maturity and a real understanding of intimacy. Not just physical connection, but responsibility for your own body and health. There's also the issue of delayed awareness. Some men might not feel the full extent of an injury immediately. They might think the pain is minor, or that it will go away after a day. But penile trauma is different. Even small tears or internal bruising can lead to scarring, fibrosis, and long-term complications like erectile dysfunction or penile curvature. Conditions that can affect confidence, intimacy, and even relationships. It's also important to recognize that many men avoid medical help because of embarrassment. They delay treatment hoping it will heal on its own, and by the time they seek help, the damage is more severe. That mindset has to change. Just like you wouldn't ignore a broken bone or a dislocated joint, you can't ignore injury to one of the most sensitive and essential parts of your body. Let's not forget how media plays a role in promoting these positions without warning. Adult films and mainstream entertainment show these acts as routine, effortless, and injury-free. But what's being shown is choreographed. These performers are often physically trained, rehearsed, and prepared for these movements. Real life is different. Real bodies aren't scripted. So copying what you see without understanding the mechanics is like attempting a stunt without knowing the risk. The good news is, there's a smarter way. If you enjoy these positions, they don't have to be eliminated, but they do need to be approached with caution and communication. Slow down. Make sure alignment is correct. Keep eye contact. Communicate with your partner about rhythm and depth. Use pillows to support lower backs or hips if needed to avoid unnatural bending. Pay attention to what your body is telling you. If there's resistance, pain, or even the slightest discomfort, stop and realign. Prevention doesn't take away from pleasure. It enhances it. When you know you're safe, you can fully immerse yourself without fear of injury. And your partner will feel more connected and respected when she knows you're being mindful, not just of her needs, but your own safety. Ultimately, protecting yourself is not about fear, it's about wisdom. The male body is powerful but not unbreakable. Certain positions, like woman on top and reverse cowgirl, may seem like fun and variety, but they require a clear understanding of what's at stake. Know your body, know your limits, and remember, real strength lies not in taking risks without thought, but in mastering the awareness that keeps you whole, healthy, and fully capable of enjoying all aspects of your life. The doggy style and standing positions are commonly seen as powerful, dominant, and performance-driven. But what's rarely discussed is the hidden risk these positions carry, especially when done without proper form control or physical readiness. These are not simply sexual positions. They are physical movements that engage the lower back, hips, core, legs, and even the spine. When these areas of the body are strained or stressed without preparation or awareness, the result can be injuries that extend far beyond the bedroom. Starting with the doggy style position, it might seem straightforward. You're behind your partner, controlling the rhythm, angle, and depth. But what many don't realize is how much pressure this position places on the lower back and hips. If your alignment is off even slightly, if your knees are not properly supported, or if you're leaning too far forward while thrusting, you're creating torque through your spine and pelvis. Over time, this can lead to lower back pain, nerve compression, and even muscular tears. The spine, particularly the lumbar region, is vulnerable during this position. Men often arch their back for leverage or thrust harder to feel dominant, but this movement, repeated over and over, especially with poor posture or fatigued muscles, leads to wear and tear. Add to that any pre-existing back problems, like a slipped disc or sciatica, and this position becomes a trigger for re-injury or increased pain. And unlike other injuries, spinal injuries take time to heal and often come back worse if ignored. Another overlooked element in this position is the force and speed. Men might go faster for excitement, but this comes at a cost. If the alignment of the pelvis or hips is slightly off, repeated deep thrusts can cause impact trauma, not just to the penis, but to the base of the spine and surrounding muscles. Men have reported everything from muscle spasms to sudden cramps to loss of sensation in their lower body following intense sessions in this position. It's not something to joke about. It's something to take seriously. Now, let's look at the standing position. At first glance, it's impressive. It looks athletic and spontaneous. But physically, it's one of the most demanding. Holding or lifting a partner while standing requires significant upper body strength, balance, and a strong core. Many men attempt position without truly assessing their physical readiness. And in that effort to perform, they strain muscles they didn't even know existed. The lower back bears most of the load, especially if the partner is being held or supported. This leads to compression in the lumbar discs, which are already prone to injury in men who sit for long hours. Lift improperly, or don't engage in core strengthening exercises. If the core isn't engaged during thrusting while standing, the spine takes the impact. One wrong move, one shift in weight, and you could be dealing with a pulled muscle, a sprained ligament, or worse, a herniated disc. Additionally, balance is a major issue. In the heat of the moment, people aren't thinking about foot placement or flooring surface. A slip, trip, or unstable grip can lead to sudden falls, collisions with furniture, or dropping a partner. These accidents not only cause physical harm but can also lead to embarrassment, fractured confidence, or even emotional distance between partners. Injuries don't just happen to the body, they affect the mind and the relationship too. The strain from standing sex isn't limited to the back. It can affect the knees, calves, and even the shoulders, especially if the partner is holding onto your neck or hanging from your arms. These joints were not designed for bearing such unpredictable loads in motion. The tension builds gradually, and while you might not feel the damage right away, soreness, inflammation, and reduced mobility show up hours or days later. Now think about how common it is for men to push through discomfort during sex, mistaking pain for effort. This mindset is harmful. The belief that you have to be a machine, that showing signs of weakness is unmanly, drives many to keep going despite physical strain. That's not strength. That's recklessness. And the body always keeps the score. What's worse is that these injuries don't just affect your bedroom experience. They affect your entire life. Back pain makes it hard to walk, sit, or sleep. Muscle tears require weeks of recovery. Herniated discs may need surgery. And in some cases, the pain becomes chronic. All of this from a position that was meant to be pleasurable, not punishing. So what's the solution? Awareness and preparation. If you like these positions, you must also take care of your physical fitness. Engage your core, stretch your hips, strengthen your lower back. Warm up before sex if you need to. Use support, pillows, furniture, walls, to stabilize your posture. Communicate with your partner about your limits. And most of all, pay attention to your body's signals. Discomfort is not something to ignore. It's a message to adjust. Sex should not be a test of physical endurance at the cost of your health. It should be a mutual experience of pleasure, safety, and connection. Choosing to perform without awareness might feel powerful in the moment, but the price can be days, weeks, or even years of pain. Know your body, respect its limits, and understand that the strongest men are not the ones who push through injury. They're the ones who prevent it. The lotus position, often seen as romantic and deeply intimate, carries an unspoken risk that many men overlook: the compression of nerves and restriction of blood during prolonged sessions. At first glance, this seated, face-to-face position may appear harmless. After all, it's slow, close, and emotionally connected. But just because a position is gentle in movement doesn't mean it's gentle on the body, especially when it comes to how long you hold it and the strain it places on your legs, lower back, and circulatory system. In the lotus position, the man is usually seated cross-legged or with legs extended and slightly bent, while the partner straddles and wraps around him. It's a position that involves full body contact and demands a level of flexibility and circulation that many men, especially those with sedentary lifestyles, don't naturally possess. While it's slower paced, the physical requirements are significant. You're holding your partner's weight, maintaining posture, engaging your hips and core, and balancing all of that while your legs may be tucked or crossed in a restrictive way. This leads to a silent but serious issue: nerve compression. The most commonly affected nerves in this position are the peroneal nerves, which run down the outside of your thighs and behind the knees. When your legs are compressed in a seated or cross-legged position for too long, especially with added pressure from your partner's body weight, these nerves can become pinched. This results in tingling, numbness, or even temporary loss of sensation in the legs or feet. You may not even notice it until after the activity is over, when you stand up and realize your legs feel dead, weak, or buzzing. This isn't just temporary discomfort. It's a signal from your nervous system that circulation has been compromised. Additionally, blood flow plays a key role here. Prolonged pressure on the thighs and pelvic region can restrict venous return, the ability of blood to flow back to the heart from the lower body. When this is hindered, blood can pool in the legs, increasing the risk of swelling, cramping, and even, in extreme and repeated cases, conditions like deep vein thrombosis (DVT). While rare in young, healthy men, the risk goes up significantly for those who are overweight, have poor circulation, or spend most of their day sitting at a desk. You may think you're doing something soft and sensual, but internally, your body is struggling to maintain healthy blood flow. Let's not ignore the spinal impact either. In the lotus or seated position, posture is everything. Many men slouch or hunch forward slightly to reach their partner more comfortably. This may feel natural in the moment, but it places pressure on the lumbar spine. If you don't have a strong core or flexible hips, this spinal load can lead to soreness, stiffness, or long-term lower back pain. Over time, especially with repetition, this becomes more than just tight muscles. It evolves into chronic discomfort that lingers beyond the bedroom. Another factor to consider is muscle fatigue. Holding this position demands isometric tension in the thighs, glutes, and abdominal muscles. You're not exactly moving vigorously, but you are sustaining a position that requires control and endurance. That static hold, especially when you're distracted or focused on intimacy, can wear out your muscles without you even realizing it. By the time you do notice, you may already be dealing with cramps, burning sensations, or joint stiffness. Men who aren't particularly flexible or who carry extra weight around the midsection are at an even greater disadvantage. The angle of penetration in this position can cause hip strain or even bruising if there's not enough cushioning or support. And because everything is so close, the potential for awkward angles or excessive pelvic pressure is high. This increases the chance of minor internal trauma, especially when attempting deeper penetration in a restricted seated posture. One more point that often goes undiscussed: breathing. When you're in the lotus position, especially with a partner wrapped around you, your chest is compressed and your diaphragm has less room to expand. Add the effort of movement, the emotional excitement, and possibly a warm environment, and you're dealing with a situation where breathing becomes shallow without you realizing it. Shallow breathing can lead to dizziness, lightheadedness, or in some cases, hyperventilation. This doesn't happen to everyone, but in men who already have respiratory issues or high stress levels, the impact is very real. All of these risks are not immediately obvious, which is what makes them more dangerous. The pain doesn't always come during the act, it comes later. You may think you've just had a meaningful moment of intimacy, but hours afterward, you're feeling numbness in your legs, soreness in your spine, or a dull ache in your hips. Many men don't associate these symptoms with the position they held during sex. They assume they just slept wrong or overworked themselves. But the truth is, the position was the cause, and they just didn't know it. The way to avoid these issues isn't to eliminate the lotus position, but to modify it. Use cushions for support, elevate your hips, and keep your spine neutral. If your legs begin to tingle or fall asleep, pause and shift. Stretch before and after to keep circulation flowing. Keep sessions shorter if you notice recurring numbness or tension. And most importantly, don't ignore what your body tells you during or after. The quiet signs, numbness, tightness, fatigue you, are the warnings that something needs adjusting. If you want your sexual health to last a lifetime, it starts by protecting your body every time, even in the most tender of moments. Sexual health is too often treated as a performance, a task, or something to be conquered. But in reality, it's a crucial part of a man's overall being, physically, mentally, and emotionally. When men only focus on pleasure without understanding the risks involved, especially with certain positions, they set themselves up for pain, injury, and long-term health issues. Pleasure isn't supposed to be reckless. It's meant to be intentional, safe, and sustaining. This means being informed, being aware, and communicating with your partner. You are not just responsible for her safety, you're equally responsible for protecting your own body. Too many men ignore the warning signs. A little soreness becomes normal. A sharp pain gets shrugged off. Tingling is dismissed as fatigue. But these are not small problems. They're signs that something isn't right. Your body always speaks. You just have to be willing to listen. The truth is, a single injury in the wrong position can lead to months of recovery or worse, permanent dysfunction. It can affect your confidence, your ability to perform, and your emotional relationship with your partner. And when you feel like your body has betrayed you, it becomes more than physical. It affects your identity as a man. The false image of masculinity has convinced many men that slowing down, being careful, or communicating discomfort makes them weak. But the strongest men are the ones who take care of themselves. Knowing when to stop, how to protect your back, how to manage angles, and how to say, "This doesn't feel right," are signs of maturity. It's not about doing more, it's about doing it smarter. Just like in fitness, form matters more than force. Alignment, posture, and control are everything. This is where communication plays a key role. Too many couples operate in silence when it comes to sexual safety. But your partner can't know your limits unless you express them. And when you're both on the same page, intimacy becomes safer and more enjoyable. That trust builds stronger connection, not just physically, but emotionally. A man who respects his own body invites his partner to do the same. It's time to change the way sexual health is viewed, not as a separate issue, but as part of your whole wellness. Just like you wouldn't ignore chest pain, you shouldn't ignore pain or risk during sex. Just like you would stretch before a workout, you should prepare your body and mind before intense intimacy. Treat it as a discipline, not just a desire. That's how you last longer, not just in the moment, but through the years with health, strength, and confidence. Because real pleasure comes not from taking risks blindly, but from knowing you're safe, present, and fully capable of enjoying life without harm. When it comes to sexual health, knowledge is your greatest protection and awareness is your strongest weapon. Every position carries its own risks. Not because sex is dangerous, but because the male body has physical limits that must be respected. Whether it's the high-impact threat of penile fracture, the spinal stress of misaligned thrusting, the circulatory risks from prolonged seated intimacy, or the subtle nerve compression that creeps in unnoticed, every act must be approached with care. Ignoring these realities doesn't make you strong. It makes you vulnerable to long-term consequences that could have been easily prevented. True masculinity isn't about ignoring pain or pushing through discomfort. It's about making wise decisions that protect your body, your future, and your relationship. Understanding how your body works, communicating with your partner, and being willing to adjust are signs of confidence, not weakness. You don't have to avoid pleasure. You just have to pursue it with responsibility. Protect your health, respect your limits, and never forget, real strength is knowing when to push and when to pause.